Welcome, everyone, to the Flexwork Podcast. I'm your host, Ludwig Araujo, and today we have a special guest out of Tampa, Florida. So she's enjoying some great weather. It's Katie Krimitsos. She is the CEO and founder of the Women's Meditation Network. And we're going to get a chance to speak to her today and find out all about it and why it's so important to get meditation in your life, especially nowadays. Katie, welcome to the show.
Ludwig, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So we find you in Tampa. My partner, Ankur, is actually in Tampa right now filming. I don't know if these guys mentioned it to you, but we're filming a reality show. And we're down there in Tampa as we speak, kind of creating content. So I'm jealous that I'm not down there.
Are you? So many picturesque places to do a reality show here. So
I hear great things, and I've been to Florida, but never to Tampa. How long have you been there?
I came out after grad school in 2002, for grad school in 2002. I grew up in Arizona. So I've been here quite some time, and, did grad school, eventually ended up, meeting my husband, and we've built a whole life here. Love it. I've lived in all different parts of Tampa Bay and the surrounding areas, and we just love it. Like I feel like I'm still discovering things here,
Yeah, I can imagine. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a small little town called Sahuarita, just south of Tucson in Arizona, like right on the border.
Wow.
Small little town. Yeah. So,
who leaves Arizona
State University?
Oh,
I know.
I was about to say, who leaves Arizona
who
for
goes
Florida?
From hot to hot and humid, right? Who does that?
Right.
Apparently me. Yeah, and there aren't many of us from Arizona here. Yeah, I came out here because I got a full ride scholarship to University of South Tampa for their grad program. So
that helps.
Or University of South Florida, sorry. So yeah, that was a nice little push to get out here.
So take me inside the mind of a young Katie. You go to grad school in South Florida, and I'm trying to identify the point at which young Katie said, I want to be a meditation expert for the rest of my life. Like, right? Because I'm sure that wasn't 8-year-old Katie. I'm sure that wasn't 17-year-old Katie. So what was the impetus for that?
Well, 19-year-old Katie took a yoga class in college and experienced a guided meditation for the very first time. And it was enough for me to be intrigued by meditation. Like, whoa, what was that? Like my brain just kind of went silent for a while. That's pretty cool. I've never had that happen.
Right.
And so I spent years after that just being in curiosity about it. Like I would go back then, that was 1997, 98, 99. I was, checking out DVDs out of the local library for, meditation DVDs. And would go to like local Buddhist centers to do meditation classes. So I just kind of developed just an interest in being a practitioner of meditation, and did it very imperfectly. Still do it very, very imperfectly all of these years. And then there was never a thought of like, this is something I want to integrate into a professional life of some sort. But I'm kind of jumping ahead now. I moved out to Florida, finished my grad program, and kind of like stumbled very painfully into quote unquote real world, professionalism.
Right.
I was always somebody who always had these very big dreams and like, I just want the dream job. I'm going to do really big things. I knew I always wanted to like help women. I was always really passionate about like, I'm going to help women somehow on a mass scale. I just don't know how. I'm a writer.
Can we pause on that? Because that is part of the fascinating, what I think is the most fascinating part of your story. Everything that's out there on you is driven towards the female base. It's almost like, not unapologetically about it. Like you're, what's the word is, I think the word is intentional. The intentionality behind how you want to focus on helping women. What is it about that aspect that grabbed you? And, whether it's something in your childhood or whatever, but, how did you get to that point where it's only, I want to help women. Women are the ones that are suffering.
I think there was a through line that got started as a young kid. I was one of 6 kids, 5 girls, 1 boy. And I was my mom is very much this very powerful matriarch. My dad is a little bit more of a sensitive soul, and very introverted, but very, very like feminist, for lack of a better term. Like he
Okay.
was very like, you just go do you, and um, so I think I just developed this like there was always like I could just do whatever I wanted, and it was really interesting to me to see sort of the world around me tell me that there were rules for girls
Mm.
that I didn't necessarily grow up with or believe in.
Like
And so
limitations?
I guess so. I guess that's what you would call it. But I like it wasn't. For example, I didn't know like, hey, if you want, like, this is back at. I'm 46 now, so I was born in 78. So like we're talking in the 90s ish of my 80s and 90s are my main childhood. So you know I just didn't think that there were any limits for me. And the older I got, the more I realized that the world wanted to tell me that I was supposed to be in a certain box. And I guess I sort of subconsciously fought it by I was a hardcore athlete, kind of an overachiever athlete, academic. I got a full ride scholarship to Arizona State. I ended up playing softball for one of the local community colleges around there. And I just wanted to be me, like to be self-expressed as much as I could be. And so I guess along the way, I just took notice of some of these things. I don't think I took them on for myself, but I just would notice about the world, like, hey, there are things that the world is trying to tell me or other women that we should or shouldn't do, or how we're
Yeah.
supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
And I would dance with those a little bit because I was a young adult, teenager, young adult. I'm talking about like what size my body's supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
what a partner's supposed to be like, when I'm supposed to get married, like general stuff like that we
Yeah.
can sort of tear apart. Anyway, I don't in college I took like women's studies. I took, I have a communication degree, like the study of how people communicate.
Yeah.
And so I think all of that really blended into me sometime in college saying like, God, I see so many women and I'm experiencing this kind of like not rooted, like
Yeah.
not rooted in them in themselves, like trying to figure stuff out with this outward world, trying to say where you should or where we expect you to be. And I don't want to give too much power to that, but I just noticed it. And so I think I've just in this is enhanced by, thousands of conversations between myself and girlfriends about some of their experiences of like wanting to live lives or going through some hard stuff or wanting to live lives that they really want to live, but they're not really living. Anyway, I don't know. The fire got lit in me. And somewhere along the way, I was like, there's so many women who, I think part of it too is like very selfish. Like
Yeah.
you teach what you most need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of that was like, this is stuff that needs evolution in me and healing in me. And I want to provide it for other people. Because as I'm evolving and healing, I'm attracting people and I'm seeing their stories too.
Yeah.
So anyway, I eventually become an entrepreneur. I was not raised in a household that was the norm. It was a very weird thing when I became an entrepreneur and gave up, my regular paycheck. That was very, very weird. And eventually along the way, fell in love with entrepreneurship. In 2014, in early 2014, ended up launching a podcast called Biz Women Rock. That was sort of this marriage of my love of women and my desire to really give to women
Yeah.
and my love of entrepreneurship. Back then, I was one of 3 podcasts that existed. This is, 2014, that was hosted by a woman about women entrepreneurs. Three of us were
That's
out there.
crazy.
Yeah, now it's flooded, which is
Yeah.
amazing, right? But
Yeah.
then it was definitely different. And so I did that for a long time.
So,
And it Go
so
ahead.
I'm sorry, Kate. I don't want to. I'm sorry to cut you off, but every piece
No,
of
that's
this,
okay.
I would like to dive a little deeper. I mean, when you say you were an entrepreneur, what was the business that you started and then decided was not for you, right?
Yeah. Well, so at the time I had just met my now husband, my then boyfriend, Chris, and he has been an entrepreneur since he was in diapers. And and so he had just started a local entrepreneurs organization called the Tampa Bay Business Owners.
Okay.
And it was kind of like a chamber of commerce, but just for entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So just to give you an idea of what the business model was, like we were a membership organization. People paid us to become part of the organization, and we curated speakers, content, education to be able to help them grow. That's what we did. So he had just started that. I had sort of kind of half attempted to be an author and write a book, but pretty soon into that journey realized like, oh, it might take me a little longer than 3 months to start making what my old salary was. Perhaps I should go help you for a while. And so he and I both did that company together, and we ran it for quite some time together. And that was my education about entrepreneurship. And that's when I was like, oh, and my skill, he's a marketer genius, really a founder. And my genius really came into operations, organization, team management, all these things. So finances. So I learned really quickly, because you're hungry and you have to bring in money, because my bank account ain't got anything else in it.
Right.
You better figure it out fast how to like actually make the business run. So it was like School of Hard Knocks of like business 101. And that's where I was when I launched the podcast, the business podcast.
So at this point, you and him were boyfriend and girlfriend, you and Chris, and you decide you want to launch the podcast. And was there an end goal to monetize that? Because in 2014, I don't remember, but was there a monetization of podcasting in 2014? And were you just like, and was he at that point like, hey, if you're going to do this, I mean, you're not bringing in revenue with this. Like, what are we doing?
Thankfully, he's a big dreamer, just like I am. So he was like, oh, you've got this fire in your heart. Go for it. Like,
awesome.
Go, we'll figure it out. Yeah. A huge, huge dreamer. And a huge support, and vice versa to him. But we still had a business to run. So it was sort of understood, like, because he and I wanted to do a podcast. So we sort of sat down. We're like, we're still running a full-time business. One of us can do it. I have a more solid idea. Let's go with that. So, I want to say that I was wise enough to know that it was a business. I didn't go in thinking like, this is just a creative outlet. Like, I knew it was a business that I wanted to generate revenue, but I was pretty green for myself and what this business model was. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do here yet. Let me just build the audience. And I'll figure it out. So we built the audience. Chris really came in as like my right-hand marketing person to help grow it. And it grew pretty fast. Over all the time, we probably averaged about like 5,000 downloads a month, which is pretty niche, but it was like enough. I had like another probably 10 to 15,000 women like in a Facebook group. And I eventually got wise enough. This whole business was a giant experiment for me, like trying things out. So I eventually got wise enough to like offer coaching. And I was like, because I didn't think that I was an expert in business. I was like, I just want to interview people who were experts. And pretty soon people were kind of like knocking down my door saying like, can you help me? And I was like, I don't think I'm not a business coach, but finally, literally I had a wonderful woman of my community who I know really well. She's like, I'm about to write you a check. I need your help. I know you're the one to help me. I was like, okay. And so I became a coach. I loved it. I did a lot of private coaching. that eventually grew into masterminds. I had courses. I had memberships. I had the
entrepreneurship.
It was for women entrepreneurs, and I helped them grow their businesses really intentionally. Thank you for identifying that word for me. Because I didn't want, there was so much, and there still is so much stuff out there about like, go big, go for the 7 and the 8-figure business.
Yeah.
And the women who were attracted to me, they were not startups. They definitely had businesses. They were running and they were doing well. They were successful, but they were kind of in this ground of like, I know I want to be more, and I don't know how to do that without the mentality of like, if I want to double, I need to double time. And there was a lot of like mindset stuff that I was really working on with these women about how to reorganize. I'm, kind of taking a look at, their operations, their marketing, all the practical and tactical stuff, but also mostly their mindsets and what they really believed, what they really wanted. Were they growing this business because they really wanted it, or were they growing it because it was sort of where they are and that's expected to be the next step, right? So it was a lot of dismantling their own belief system about themselves mostly, and about what's possible, so that we could build what it was that they really wanted, and then put practical, wise marketing and growth behind that. So that's what I did. And I loved it. I loved it.
Did you have any sort of, I don't know, psychology schooling or anything that had to do with, dismantling the mind and understanding how people think? And because part of what it sounds like you were doing was a little bit of therapy, right? Breaking down barriers and stuff like that. Was there any of that involved where you were like, or was there ever a point where you were like, hey man, I don't have the training, to get deep into this, but how did that work?
No. Um, so I have a master's degree in human communication. So like the study of how humans work.
Yeah, that works.
And in that, you might say that it's a combination of sociology, anthropology, all of the things, right? Psychology. So I had, yes, I had some academic schooling for it. I
Yeah.
had some experience with it, but mostly I think I have become a really good communicator throughout all the
Mm,
years of my life. And so um I can't claim to like be perfect or an expert at it, but I think just in intentional interaction with people, I could see right away, oh, this is, and partially because I either I was experiencing it already then, or I had already experienced it, like that self doubt or the misbeliefs or the expectations or what have you. Um, so I definitely employed a lot of those um a lot of those skills of how humans are working right now and what the psychology might be in this. And you can marry that with, we're in the business world. You can marry that with a lot of the business stuff that's out there, which is really good about teaching about mindset and
mm.
how it's so much more than the hustle and so much more than your P&L. Like, let's really get down to what it is you really want. And truly, I just think that that's paying attention to humans.
Yeah,
Like,
listening.
are you lit up? Are you
Yeah,
lit up when you're talking about this? Or are you sort of like ho hum? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think if you're genuinely connected to somebody in a conversation, you can get that and you can play and you can help guide them. So
So you start this podcast 2014,
yes, yeah,
and 2015 goes, 16 goes, and then 2018 hits. What happens
yeah.
in
2018
2018?
hits. So by 2018, I had my first daughter,
Mm,
and I had sort of figured out very intentionally this like mompreneur equation, right? Like how am I intentionally building this company in a way that feels good and also making sure I'm a very present mom. And so by 2018, I figured I had a toddler. I was like, okay, this is great. 2017 finishes. I had just finished my first like 6-figure year. I had been building up to that point. I felt really good and like, yay, good job. I got this.
and this is
2018,
as a coach, as an entrepreneur coach.
right. Yeah.
Wow, six
So
figures. That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah. So I begin 2018 with like, okay, let me write down all these goals, these ideas. What are we doing? Here's the business plan. I'm going to triple business this year. Like I can see it. I know exactly what I need to launch when I need to launch it. I already know my community is really tight. Like I already know who's going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Um, Q1 passes. Everything's great. I'm hitting marks. And then in April of 2018, we find out we're pregnant with our second daughter.
Mm,
And immediately, just immediately, I heard the whisper, you're done with this. You're done with this, which
wow.
was terrifying because not only because I loved what I did, but because I was like, oh, this is a lifestyle business. Like this is part of our family income and how we're doing life right now.
Yeah.
Like that's a little scary. So I spent quite some time. I spent a few weeks kind of unraveling. Like, am I just trying to sabotage myself because I'm on the brink of the next big thing? Am I is this hormones? Like, what am I feel like? What's actually real here? And my husband and I would go on walks every single day, and I would, just talk about all the things going on in my head. And he would just beautifully listen. And one day it would be like, I can do this. I'm going to build a multi-million-dollar business this way. It's fine. I could do it. I could do it. And the next day I'd be like, I'm done. Like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm going to raise these babies. I'm good. And everything in between. So we're in this a few weeks and we're taking a long walk. And I've finished, whatever I spouted out that day. And he looks at me and he says, what about that meditation idea? What he
Mm,
was referring to was back in January when I had just dumped out all these ideas about what the year could be. One of the ideas that I had was a meditation podcast for women.
mm,
I did not do anything with it because it didn't really fit with what I was going for. But my husband is very wise. He knows the podcasting space. He's the founder of Podfest. Like he knew right away, like, the potential there.
Yeah.
So now here he is, months later. It's May, and he's saying, "What about that meditation idea?" And I was like, "Well, what about it?" He's like, "What about it?" And that was enough to plant the seed for the Women's Meditation Network. It took an hour. We walked for another hour. And in that hour of just brainstorming and like, what could this be? What is it? I don't know. Came out. I was really, really clear. I was like, wow, this could be the next evolution of my work with women in the world. And it could be, I could build a business model that would be compatible for an infant and a toddler, meaning I wouldn't have to have a butt in the seat in order to make money. Like,
Yeah.
no matter how now, no, I was charging like 20 grand for coaching at that point. Like, it doesn't matter how much I was coaching. I still had to be there and
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it. I absolutely wanted time freedom. So I was like, I could build a broadcasting type of a business here that would give me complete time freedom. And if I did it right and went big, I could build financial freedom. So that felt really, really good. And more important than all of that stuff, what I saw very clearly was that in 2018, if you would go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and type in women and meditation, one podcast came up. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me in 2018. So I knew, I was like, there's a massive gap here and I have something to say and I feel like I have something to contribute here. So let's go. So like, that was like the fuel that I needed to be like, okay, let's do it. Now to kind of sandwich this all together, at that point, I was a practitioner of meditation, right? Like no one knew that I even meditated. I was not considered a meditation expert by any stretch of the imagination. I barely had enough confidence to be like, I'm not like, I don't know how to guide people through meditation. This is so weird. But I was a writer and I knew if I could write a really good script that could really connect with the heart of a woman, just like, and I still to this day approach it this way. If I could if I could write a script, if I could write like a song and pair it with music and with sound effects that can make an experience that really gets to the soul of a woman, I could do this. And that's what I started doing. And so July of 2018, I launched Meditation for Women.
You launched this network about women's meditation, specifically, obviously, women, right? And this whole time you're doing your own meditation. Couple questions pop up immediately. The medium of the podcast for meditation is a strange pairing at first thought, right? So what how did you tackle that like kind of hurdle? Like maybe how did you tackle that?
Yeah. It wasn't for me because by then I was a podcast listener for meditation. I would go to podcasts to listen to meditations. So I was at least aware.
Talk to me like I don't know. I'm a third grader, right? Am I listening to music, like soft music, or listening to the ocean? Are you talking? Are you speaking over that?
Yes, exactly. So, back then, and it's the same now. What I do is I will write a script. I will read the script in a really low, like really calming voice, right?
Yep.
And then my genius producer doesn't just slap music on it. Like he makes it this like musical audible experience. He's putting sound effects on there that sound like a big deep breath in when I ask people to take a deep breath in. He's I write about really kind of off the beaten path type stuff. So like, I'll write about I'm trying to think. I wrote this one time about my daughter getting bullied, and there was a whole poem about like, you don't have to play with someone who makes you feel sad, and you don't have to play with others who make you feel bad. And he had like kids playing in the like the sound effects of like kids on a playground kind of softly in the back to like build the scene. So the answer is yes. Like the whole experience is you pressing play and you're hearing music, you're hearing whatever, my producer has created for that scene to pair with the words, and then you're hearing me talk you and guide you throughout it.
So it's almost like an audiobook experience then.
100%.
But you're doing it in that soft, mellow tone. So then I'm assuming if it's a sleep podcast, it's something I could put my headphones on and go to sleep to.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have sleep meditation for women. Those are like longer. They're very specific, like the scripts are very specific to like body relaxation, concentrating on all those thoughts and the tasks and the undone things. Like, let's address all of that. Let's move of them along, like all of that stuff. So
I,
yes, they're
I
meant to put you to sleep.
I see that this pairs extremely well with yoga. My ex-wife is a yogi.
Mhm.
So I know a
Yeah.
lot about that world. Is there like a natural is there a natural melding and mixing of the two for you? Like, in other words, do you ever see yourself trying to get involved in a yoga space, or are you intentionally keeping it just meditation?
I intentionally kind of separate the two. A lot of people want to pair the two with me. Like they want to call me a yoga expert and it's
Yeah,
not. They're two very different things.
yeah.
Um and I can't claim to know very deeply about yoga other than like I use it as exercise, and obviously it has mental effects and physical effects and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've sort of done my best to kind of keep it authentic to, yes, you're going to find meditations here that are what your average person is going to expect from a meditation, like, release the anxiety, calm yourself down. Um, and you're going to get that. You're going to get a little bit of woo woo. You're going to get a little bit of practical. You're going to get a little bit of poetic and creative. You're going to get a little bit of guided visualization. And that's all authentic to me. The reason, the reason why I do it is not because I know meditation and I want to teach meditation. The reason I do it is because I have used meditation as a tool for deep inner knowing. And
Mm,
that has guided my life and shaped my life in ways that are immeasurable. It
mm,
has allowed me to piecemeal my life together in a way that is truly authentic to me. It doesn't allow anyone else to have a say in how my life should be, and it has allowed me to make some really big decisions in my life that anyone else would think were really hard, or how did you do that? Like when this whole transition I just, talked about, of moving from the business podcast to the meditation podcast, like I had so many people go, how did you do that? That's so brave. How did
yeah,
you walk away from that?
yeah.
And in my head, I was like, all I did was stay really tuned into myself. And it was the obvious road. How could I not follow that? That's not bravery to me. That's just being me being me. And
Mm,
that is what I want to give to the people listening. I want to give them the tool that allows them to go inside and know themselves so well that all of that anxiety that they're feeling, all of that noise that's out here telling them what life should be, that they're in this box, that they're stuck in this job, that they're stuck in that marriage, that they can't truly be happy, that all those things, the depression, like all of this stuff that's kind of going around right now, right? Like that feels very heavy and very dark. I want them to feel like none of that actually matters. What matters is what's here and what I truly want. And if I know myself well enough, I know how to navigate through all of this. I
mm.
know how to let that anxiety dissolve. I know how to come inside to get the questions that I've been seeking for so long out here. They're not
Wow.
out there. They're all here.
Right.
That is why I do it. And I have watched that muscle in me grow, and I've watched it help create a life for me that doesn't look like anyone else's life. And I don't need anyone's approval for the life that I have, and there are no limits to what my life could possibly be. And I feel like that's the gift I want to give to everyone who could use meditation or journaling or being in nature. Like the goal is just be one with self, know your soul, know yourself, understand, recognize that voice inside, rather, and be able to distinguish it from the noise out here. So that's why I'm here. Like that's the stuff. So it starts with meditation. It starts with what looks like a very practical, a podcast network, and it continues to build because more and more women are getting access to themselves through this, and it just allows me to give them that tool little by little.
I mean, it sounds amazing. I think one of the things I've learned about meditation in the past was even a little bit a day helps. I mean, is there a recommendation on your end in terms of how much you should? I remember reading about like high value high productivity leaders in the business world, and there were like a few things that they all had in common in terms of what they did, and it would be like things like most high net worth individuals, they wake up at 5 a.m. and they work out, and they prioritize sleep, or they don't prioritize sleep. They work 20 hours a week. But one of the things that was common too was that a lot of them meditate. And
Yeah.
even if it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes in the morning before getting to work, um, is there a minute number, or is there an amount that you should, and how much do you meditate daily?
Yeah. Um, so I'll say this by saying that there's no shoulds. And also, it takes a little bit of a dismantling of what we think meditation should look like. We
Mm,
think that it should look like us sitting in cross-legged position,
yeah.
back erect,
Yes.
with a nice little, our hands here, and everything's great. And our mind is blank for a whole hour with incense going and
Yeah.
the candles lit. That's
That's it.
awesome.
Yeah.
And if that's what your meditation practice looks like kudos to you. That's amazing. That's never been what it's looked like for me. And that doesn't have to be what it looks like. It can look like 5 deep breaths while you're in the shower.
Mm,
That could be a mini meditation. It could look like you brushing your teeth and just like being conscious of your breath, being conscious of the motion of the toothbrush. Okay.
mm,
It could be you getting in your car, and before you get it out of your driveway, you're stopping and you're just taking deep breaths like that. These are mini meditations.
mm,
It could be you getting out of the house and sticking your feet in the grass before you get your day started, right? And just taking a big deep breath and welcoming the sun, right? So that's one thing, which is there's no shoulds, but the point is to spend some conscious time using your breath. We use our breath a lot in meditation to be able to come into presence, because it's such a powerful tool to like bring your attention away from here and getting it into something physical in motion so that you could start feeling that. And there's so many effects that deep breathing has on our nervous system immediately. Like it's sending relaxation, vibes all throughout us as soon as we are breathing deeply regularly. So that said, you know, I love recommending for people who don't currently have a meditation practice, whatever that looks like, but just start with mini meditations like this, like these 5 deep breaths, and attaching them to something you already do on the regular, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, getting dressed in the morning, right before you go to bed, like right before you lay down on your bed. That's such a great way to start. And it could be 5 seconds, 5 deep breaths, right? That's it. My meditation practice right now is actually really very different than what it's looked like in past years. Right now, I do wake up pretty early. I wake up at like 4:30 a.m. every morning for the
wow.
most part, because I desperately want quiet, alone time
Right.
without anyone asking anything of me. My day, I turn into mom by 6:30 in the morning, so I
Yeah.
have hour and a half, 2 hours. And generally sometimes I'll take a full hour, just sit there. I have my coffee and I just
Mm,
just sit. And I'm sitting on my couch comfortably, kind of half laying down. And then, sometimes I'll know that I'm done. I'll be like, okay, I'm done. Now let me get to the most important tasks. Right. Um, so that's what it looks like. But I stop. That's not my whole meditation practice. I stop a lot throughout the day to sort of like right before our interview right now, I was running. I was like, had just finished another meeting. I was getting ready, and I forced myself to go lay down on the bed and just take 3 deep breaths. Like, let me
mm.
just get myself centered. That's my meditation moment, right? Just bringing myself into presence. Meditation is a pause from the normal fast pace motion always going on in our head, going on in our bodies. It's just a
Mm.
pause from that and becoming aware of that. So it can be whatever you want it to be.
I mean, I feel like going to lay down right now. Like you're getting me all excited about doing this, because there was a point, maybe I don't know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, where I tried it. I would go to the gym and then I'd come home and then I'd sit on the couch for a little bit just to uh, close my eyes and do that, because I do realize that there's an importance to it, and I just wish that I can get. I don't wish, I can do it, but it's good that we're having this conversation, because I think it's a good reminder for even myself, um, to get back into meditation for mental health purposes, for clarity, for focus, for a bunch of reasons. You started the podcast, the Meditation Network. and it's one of the very few podcasts that have reached over 100 million downloads. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're
Correctly?
actually about to reach 200 million right
That's
now.
insane.
So yeah, we're about a
And
month away from that. Yeah.
and that was 2018 is when you started. So here we are 7 years
Yeah.
later, and you're about to hit. Did you ever expect this type of success for the podcast?
Yes and no. Like, yes, because I definitely initially had that vision of like, oh, this is big. This is big. But I had never experienced it before. So that was very
Mm,
intimidating. I had never had those kinds of numbers before. We average about 3 million downloads every single month across 20 shows across the network. And so that has been like, there are moments where I really take that for granted. And then there are moments where I'm like, oh, holy cow, like that's a big deal, right?
it
I'm
is.
always wanting to grow. I'm always wanting to expand. So, but yeah, part of me really did expect it. And I want more, like not for the sake of more, but I want more people to listen. I want more people to have access to it.
When you gain this type of audience, obviously the next step is these people are reaching out to you, not just to listen to your podcast and go to sleep if, let's say that's their goal, but now they want more, right? They want more
Yeah.
assistance. So are what are you doing in that sense? Are you offering anything that's like coaching and consulting and helping with
Yeah.
one-on-one meditation?
Ludwig, that's a really good question. So, this is a bit of a therapy session as I describe this. So,
Okay.
for the longest time, I did not. I absolutely did not because I had just come from a business where I did that. And I had really hard no's. And remember, when I launched the first show of this network, I also had a baby a few months later. So
Yeah.
like I was in deep, my kids are now 9 and 6, and this is 7 years old. So like it's been for many years, I was in like the deep throes of like, kids and babies and toddlers and all the things. Um, so for many years, I really like did not want to do it. And it's worth noting that, the network did not make money for the first couple of years. Like I was in the red for the first couple of years because I was spending more than I was making because
Yeah.
my goal, I just really wanted to grow the audience, therefore grow, potential sponsorship and ad opportunities. Um, so when I finally was in the black, then it was like, so while I was in the red, I was like, oh, like I know how to launch a program. I should do a program and just bring some money in, right? And I just couldn't. Like, I just didn't want to. Like, my intuition was like, stop it. You know how to do that. That's not what you're trying to build here. You're trying to build a broadcast network. That's what you want to build. So for the first really 4 years, probably maybe even 5 out of these 7 years, that's what it's been. I've hard-nosed just about everything. I have known that my meditations themselves are products, and so I have done a good job of putting them elsewhere there so they can make money and kind of packaging them in ways
Yeah.
in other areas so they can make money in other areas. But I have not done an actual program. It's only been in probably the past year and a half that I'm like, okay, I need to do the program.
Yeah.
I need to do the program. And so right now, as a matter of fact, tomorrow I'm actually leaving on my own little book retreat. I'm going to go away. I'm writing as much of my book as I possibly can. And that will come hand in hand with a program for it, community for it. So there's a lot of stuff about to pop in the next few months that has sort of been a long time coming. But as of this point, it has been like heads down on just growing the network and having it be a podcast network. This is really the first year that it will grow beyond that.
Now, you don't have a podcast in a sense like this, do you? In your network where
Like an
you're,
interview?
yeah, interview style or even, talking to a co-host.
No, I don't. Again, that's what my old podcast was.
Hmm.
These are really just they're guided meditations. You show up, you press play, and you're listening to your meditation. Now, about I don't know, 6 to 9 months ago, I started doing solo episodes. So I could just share more of myself and I
Hmm.
could share more about like, you know, like issues of the heart, like things that we're going through, like how to deal with overwhelm, and just have a more conversational experience rather than just saying it through whatever, I had written in that particular meditation. So
Yeah.
usually about once a week I do a solo episode that sort of does that. But no, I haven't. I've experimented with a couple of interviews over the years, not many. Um, but I'm very clear. I might eventually have a whole nother podcast that's that, but across the actual meditation podcasts themselves, like I always want to be really respectful of like what are people coming for? You know, they're coming to listen
Yeah.
to a meditation.
But I'm sure they are. I guarantee if I was to go through your incoming emails from your
Yeah.
followers and your fans, there has to be one predominant thing they're asking for that you're not offering, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
and what are you cool to share what that would be if you
It's
know?
it is 100% like help with anxiety and help with sleep.
Mm,
And obviously those get unpacked into bigger things, right?
yeah,
But
anxiety is huge, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge. So they're always asking for more meditations to help with anxiety, more meditations to help with sleep. As a matter of fact, across our network, out of those 3 million downloads, half, about half, maybe even a little bit more are from our sleep shows. So
Wow.
so yes, so that is part of what's kind of coming here in the next few months, which is like actually packaging that help, you know?
Uh, I I would also think that men are using this as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there are there any plans on targeting men or doing like a separate offshoot network or um
Yeah, yes
I
and
mean, do you
no.
have to
So
target men even? Like, do we even have
no,
to change anything, right? Because
no,
obviously, if I wanted to go to sleep tonight and I have trouble sleeping, I could just throw on one of your sleep
of
meditations,
course.
right? Okay.
You know, really like to tell people, like, as passionate as I am about women, like at the end of the day, it's a branding. Like I've just chosen a certain brand.
Hmm.
Any human could listen to any one of these shows. Okay, maybe minus like pregnancy meditations or like a menopause meditation, right? Like,
Right, right.
but any human being could listen to these and identify with the universal feelings of struggling with anxiety, you know, feeling so stressed out, feeling overwhelmed, wanting to have calm, wanting really to be connected to peace. Like any one of us can do that. So I have just chosen to sort of put this brand around it because that's how I've chosen to do it. I don't have any plans to do like a men's meditation podcast. But yeah, who knows? We'll see.
Um, I have two teenage daughters.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot going on with the mental health of the youth today, especially social media, cell phones, and all that stuff. Any thoughts to giving young women? Again, not knowing, maybe you already have something on the playlist, but
Yeah.
how do you feature or how do you approach the issues with young women and what they're facing these days?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I have 2 daughters too. So I I have 5 of my podcasts are dedicated to kids.
Mm,
Um, so, you know, meditation for kids, sleep meditation for kids, or sleep sounds for kids. And they're they're not your typical not yet. They're not your typical like, you know, caricature, you know, meditate with Elsa type of podcast. They're the meditations I've written for my girls
mm.
that, you know, I want them to hear a message or I want them to help them go to sleep, right? And those are the ones I put over there. And so I feel like they're pretty unique in the sense that they're very message laden. And so that's been my way of being able to sort of put something out there for the youth, for kids. Now there's definitely sort of this gap between that and like let's say the teenage years,
Yeah,
right? And so I don't have anything for that yet, but you never know, I'm still growing.
yeah.
And I feel like I do get feedback from listeners that they listen to it with their daughters, that you
Mm.
know they'll listen to it on the way to school, which is really great. So, and I really hope that as I'm building out more and more resources, not just other podcasts, but more and more resources that can really help that, you know, that the women listening will bring their daughters and, you know, I can build stuff out for that.
Sometimes my youngest, she's 15 and she's a sophomore in high school, and she's every once in a while she'll have sleepless nights if she has anxiety over, let's say, something going on with sports the next day or in the coming weeks, or whether it's
Yeah.
school and tests. And I'm excited really to have her discover your podcast, because I think it would help um, relax her and get her more focused. And
Yeah.
so I'm excited about that. How did the pandemic affect you and this business? Clearly, a time in all of our history where mental health struggles and a lot of issues were happening, obviously, with the pandemic and the loss of work and being at home and all those things. Um, how did that affect you guys?
So up until, let me see. So 2018, we launched Meditation for Women, my very first show. About a year and a half passed. It was a year and a half old. My daughter that I had just had was now a year old. And I completely let go of the past business. For about a year and a half, I was managing both, right?
Mm,
So December of 2019, said goodbye to the old business finally, so I could put full force attention on, the podcast. And February of 2020 comes around, and my husband, who's the founder of Podfest, which is one of the largest podcasting communities and events for independent podcasters around the world, was stressing the hell out. Like, obviously, like
yeah.
all this talk of coronavirus coming out. And he was just like, oh my God, I'm about to have an in-person event. And he was
Oh my
sheet
God.
white. Like, what do I do? Um, Mostly because he didn't want anyone to get hurt, right? Like he didn't want to bring anyone into danger. So to make a very long story short, I started making meditations for him. And
Okay.
meditation for coronavirus anxiety. When everything feels really scary,
Yeah.
like when you don't know, when the world seems like it's going crazy. Like all of these meditations I would write for him. And that was February. He had his event. Everyone was fine, thank goodness. His event ended on Sunday. Monday, the country shut down.
Oh my
And
God.
so, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So, it's now March of 2020, and I had put up all these meditations I had written for him. I had put them up on the podcast, and we hit 100,000 downloads that month, which was we were like 50 or 60,000 before that.
Yeah.
And what I saw in that was, while everyone else was shutting down, while everything else was slowing down and stopping, I knew intuitively, I was like, you've got to sprint right now. You've
Mm,
got to do more. People need this right now. They desperately need this. Like, I could see it in my husband, right? But I felt it. I was feeling it myself. Like a couple weeks into it, I was like every other parent, trying to like work and have kids at home and like do the thing. And what are we doing? And I don't know, like so much confusion and fear. And then, so all I would do is I did a weekly show at that point, and I just would try to do any extras that I could. Thankfully, I had my in-laws as sort of our little COVID pod. So they would take the kids for like 24, 48 hours, and I'd be able to like right away and, record as much as I could. And I just would put out as much as I could. And so my numbers just skyrocketed until the point in, what was it, that summer. I took note, like, of course, I would hear from tons of people, and I was always looking at my analytics. I'm very, I'm always looking at my analytics, and so I would see, like, hey, this is like the eighth week in a row that 9 out of my 10 most downloaded shows are all sleep meditation. So I launched the Sleep Meditation for Women podcast, and that's when I officially kind of turned into a network.
mm,
Because I had just been doing that one podcast forever, and
right.
now I was like, okay, now we're doing a network. And so um, that was part of like our growth. Like, okay, now I have a plan to just grow this, expand it. We're going to launch this. 6 months later, we launched Morning Meditation for Women. Then we launched Water Nature Sounds, Ambient Sounds, Sleep Sounds. We did daily affirmations for women, meditation for anxiety. Like, we just started launching one after the other for the impact and for the intention of like, so many people need this and they're searching for it. Let's be where they're searching.
Where do you rank now? Are you when it comes to the specific silo of meditation? Are you one of
I
the
I
top?
have no I have no idea.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. You'll see me. I mean, you'll see our podcast in there if you look at, the health and wellness, or, whatever category Apple puts it in. So, we're there probably in the top 100, top 200. At least a handful of our shows are there.
And they're
Sleep
all
meditation
audio,
for
obviously, right? No YouTube version, or is there a YouTube?
So I do have a YouTube channel. It's different. Like, we actually curate. It's not an automatic, this show kind of launches on this day and therefore it goes live on YouTube on the same day. Like, we don't do that connection. We actually have a YouTube channel called Meditation for Women, and we curate kind of the best of the best. And then I have a phenomenal video producer. And so we're just constantly experimenting with like, what video can we put here to make it look good? So we have about like 4,000 subscribers right now. We're very intentionally growing it right now. It laid stagnant for a couple of years, but just in this past year, we've really started putting our love and attention onto it.
So, one second. A pop-up came up on the screen here. So what would you say over the next 2 to 3 years is the goal now for the Meditation Network? Like, where are we going from here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I became really clear this year that for the longest time, I saw the podcast network as my business because that's what it was. And that's what I was growing. This is the year where I finally, perhaps maybe my own CEO brain has grown a little bit in the sense that I finally see that the podcast network is just one part of the entire brand that is the Women's Meditation Network. So much to our discussion before, what that means is there's an enormous amount of energy in now providing complementary resources that can really help these women as they navigate their worlds. And because I feel like I have some really good stuff to be able to share and to help them and to help guide them. So that's what it's all about right now. Like that it is, I feel like there is a message inside of me that I cannot stop like screaming from the mountaintops. And it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with like, I want you to feel the peace of knowing thyself. So you know how to navigate your world and build it. Like what's better than that, you know? So I want, while they might be coming because they're having trouble sleeping that night, they might be having trouble sleeping because their brain's going 1,000 miles a minute because they're afraid they're going to lose their job and like, they've made that mean a lot, right?
Yeah.
And everything. So I want to be able to be there to handhold them through like, hey, we've got this, we've got this, we've got this, like all these different things that you can cherry pick and use as you need them to find yourself, to remember yourself, so that you can really have this life that you actually love.
I'm going to take this opportunity to pitch you on creating your own reality show or documentary and using our company to do it because I think the message that you're sending out there and I think what you guys are doing are super critical and important. And I'm super happy to have had this conversation with you because, like I said, I have 2 young girls. From time to time may have reasons to use meditation or at least get in the habit of meditating. And I just think this is important and it's a natural way to heal and get a better understanding of yourself, which is really important in this day and age. Not having to resort to, finding either medication or what have you, right? Are you familiar with the show The Real World? And
yes, I am that old. Yeah.
I
remember Real World.
We are that old because I remember the season 1 with one of the cast members. His name is Eric Neese, and he was like he then did a few shows on MTV afterwards. But he's out nowadays doing stuff with ayahuasca, and I'm assuming meditation. I could be wrong, but using where do you feel kind of like those type of experimental drugs, whether it's ayahuasca or mushrooms or weed, marijuana, any of those types of drugs to help like the meditative state? Where do you fall on that?
I'll say point blank, I don't know enough to have a really educated opinion.
Okay.
But the experience and the conversations I've had around that, I just really always fall back to like, hey, if you really know yourself, you'll know what you need and you'll be willing to dance with an experiment with something that could help, because I have absolutely heard stories of that significantly helping people so much, like so much. And I've heard the opposite stories too.
Yeah.
So, so, my question with all of that, whatever the external thing is what's your intention for using it, and are you willing to go through something unknown in order to get what it is you're really looking for? What are you really looking for?
Yeah, it
Those
is
are
a big
really my
unknown.
questions.
pretty
It's a
scary.
big unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Katie, where can people find you? Can you tell our audience and your audience, because we're going to share this with you and you can share it with your
yeah.
audience. Where can people find you and the Meditation Network?
Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find us at Meditation for Women. If you're listening to this on a podcast, you can just search for Women's Meditation Network on your podcast player or womensmeditation.com.
Awesome. Katie, this was amazing. Thank you again for taking the time and educating me today. I learned a lot, and I definitely am going to check out your meditations tonight and
Yeah.
send them over to my daughters as well, because I think we can all benefit from them. So I appreciate you. And thanks everyone for tuning in on the Flexwork Podcast. We'll see you soon.